You're listening to the Digital Deep Dive, where we tackle the newest trends, strategies, and pain points shaping growth across the digital landscape. From Amazon and D2C to international expansion, join our host and e-commerce leaders across multiple industries for in-depth discussions on how to maximize your brands in the digital arena. Now, here's your host, Aaron Conant.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Conant, and I think today, one of the topics that's come up quite a bit is around funding and the current state of funding that's out there. And that's everything from brands, it's things from the aggregators, it's the things from, different service providers that are popping up and just where it's at. And I've got a great friend, Michael Southworth over at Elemerce. We've chatted for years now on a variety of topics, but this is one that's come up over and over again. And he deals with a lot of different brands with the agency that he has. And so, Michael, I'll just kick it over to you. If you want to do a brief intro on yourself and Elemerce, that'd be awesome. And then we can kind of jump into the conversation. Sound good?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks again, Aaron. Always a pleasure. Elemerce, so we're a kind of a full funnel or full stack digital marketing agency for e-commerce brands or consumer brands. Selling on e-commerce, we've been around a little over 8 years. We actually blended an Amazon agency and a more traditional digital marketing agency of almost 5 years ago now to kind of create that full stack of services. So we manage on the top marketplaces and digital media channels, social channels, both paid and organic, and just try to drive awareness, drive traffic, and get brands, help them hit their goals. And so it's an interesting topic because a lot of them have a goal of exiting someday. And, some of the headwinds and challenges of that are kind of paramount these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great just place to kick it off, because what we saw, and you and I chat about this a bunch, is around, during the pandemic with the aggregators out there just going around gobbling up brands. And then there were so many aggregators out there. I mean, I was talking to some people yesterday that they were looking at like 10 multiples on a brand, where there is all this money flowing in, then all this money to go acquire. And now it's kind of been pulled back. And then our conversation that, kind of was the spawning point for this, this actual, podcast episode was alternative ways that you now see brands that are outside of just selling, but trying to raise capital. And it's a little bit, tougher to do. So what are you seeing in this space for, these smaller brands that need the money? Like, seems like partnerships and stuff like that have been popping up.
Yeah, for sure. Like this always happens, right, Aaron, when things get tightened up around the world, money tightens up a lot. And so, when it's going crazy and the money's just flowing and they're just trying to deploy. It's kind of the scrutiny's not there. The diligence that should be done is probably not there. Things are overvalued. You get a lot of that going on, and if you get an opportunity to participate in that, good for you. But then it's kind of a reality check the way I see it, in a sense. It's not, maybe at least as much of a correction as it is, a real tightening, kind of beyond what's reasonable. It may feel sort of unreasonable, but it's probably a lot more real in terms of what people are willing to invest in. There's certainly an aspect of a lot of these big funds and big LPs are kind of sitting on cash and trying to get deals. That's one of the big issues that you face if you're kind of in the seller's market. It's not really good for you, because everybody's looking for a discount. Not everybody, but a lot of them are looking for a discount.
But I mean, also the discount, I think, kind of what you pointed out is, I don't know if it's like a little bubble that burst, but there's like two people sitting out there. There's people that they'd sold a business before, maybe at a 3 or 4 valuation. Then they're like, oh my goodness, I'm selling now because I can get an 8, 9, 10 multiple on EBITDA. And they know to sell now, right? They know to get out like right away because there's going to be the correction that comes down. And then there's new people that came in and all they've ever known is 7, 8, 9, 10 multiple. And now they're thinking, well, now it's a huge discount. But in reality, maybe it's not like you're saying, it's that correction. It's not necessarily a discount. And so I think that's kind of like one of those. I love how you brought it up because it's just I'm going through my head like the key takeaways, which is maybe that 3, 4, 5 multiple is really, really good still, like it was 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's right. Just we were skewed because of all the money that was freely flowing for the brand acquisition. I know there's also, all the money pumping into the service provider side too. But I love that thought though.
Yeah. And it's a great point you touch on, because there's founders, we all think our business is worth a lot more than it is,
right. Or I just sold my house, right? Yeah, I know exactly. It's yours. It's your baby. You built it,
right? Yeah, it's your baby. You put all this sweat and blood and tears into it, and so you also know what it could become. Usually we're hammering away and we're on this trajectory and we're like, hey, we're gonna make it to this, or we're gonna turn the corner, we're gonna hit this number. So, but investors don't want to see. They pay for. I think during those like bubble periods, they're willing to stretch a little bit more for that potential, and so it's easier to get a deal done closer to what you want and where your value is, where your mind's at. But we see this on both sides, whether it's acquisition or just working capital, funding for the business. Like if you're, low interest rates, super low interest rates, or really high valuations where you don't have to give up as much equity, that's not really reality. That's just during a booming market, and those kind of come and go relatively quickly. We were in a bit of a prolonged one, I think, this last run for sure. But we're actually doing have been working on putting together sort of our own accelerator, and different than the kind of aggregator type model. We're looking very specifically in kind of the health and wellness category that we're focused in, and brands that we can have kind of a long-term partnership. So it's about each specific product, technology, brand, that and not so much about the portfolio. Building portfolio businesses. So, but when we talk to these founders, it's like, they want money, they need money, they think they deserve money. And this is not to be hard on founders or something, but it's just kind of a reality, I think. But then they don't want to give up equity. And this is especially true in early ventures, because the earlier you are, the lower your revenue, the lower your EBITDA, the more you're going to give away, the more you have to part with. Mm-hmm. And so, then it becomes an issue, which I think if more founders maybe embrace that, like, hey, if I take the time to find the right strategic partner, like, giving up that equity is, I want to bring that partner in. I want to incentivize them, and I want to, and the capital and the relationships and the advice and the partnership itself, like really, it's going to help me 10x my business or whatever that, that there's so much more opportunity that I think we can't kind of see the forest through the trees, or, sometimes we're trying to hold on, too tight.
You said like accelerator, was it like the pattern? Like, it sounds different than like the patterns of the world, right? That they buy inventory and help accelerate it that way. They put out a multiple marketplace. They're basically managing the whole e-com business, buying wholesale and reselling and controlling the brand and doing the advertising. Mm-hmm. What you're talking about is different than that. You're talking like an actual partner coming alongside doing an investment, or
well, yeah. So it's very strategic. So if you took like a Techstars accelerator as an example, you go into a boot camp, you learn, you go through all these courses for 6 weeks, I think it is, and then you graduate, and then you get a chance to pitch, some investors at the end. The likelihood you're going to get investment from those is probably, fairly low, but you get to meet those people. Some of them will just provide you with a list of funds and LPs that you can reach out to, and you go to work trying to do it. And so it's taking kind of that model and saying, what are brands where our ecosystem, our relationships, our distribution, contacts, our expertise and experience, that we can help lift and accelerate those brands. So essentially, if you were to blend like a pattern in their model, maybe key in, focus in on your real strongest categories, like for us, health and wellness, kind of fitness, and you were to, and then blend that with more of a traditional accelerator. We're like, hey, we're going to advise you, and but then we're also going to select companies that we feel that we want to invest in. And so there's two different, we have a couple of different angles. We're a partner in an accelerator out of Irvine, California, called Hangar 75. And they, will accept only certain product companies, certain brands into the accelerator that we feel have a good chance, that we'll want to invest in them. But there's a 3 to 6 month window before that decision is made to actually invest. So this is a 2-year accelerator, 2 years of advising, every single week. But then, at 3 to 6 months, if we've had more time to do, due diligence and really see how that company operates, how we work with the founders and the leadership team. And then as we deploy capital into those companies, we're able to help kind of just help advise. And in some cases, if we're helping do marketing for that company or something, we're really helping manage how, a good portion of that money is spent. So we're de-risking the investment for our LPs. So that's one model. The other model is where we've got some investment banks and we're really, really handpicking brands, only brands that we know we want to invest in. So there's a long, it's not like you get accepted into this accelerator program. We're going to find real strategic opportunities where we can add value from our network and from the services or expertise that we provide, the advisorship, and then bring in capital. So we have a deal this week for a beverage company that we've actually helped build their deck and are driving the pitch for them to the investment bank. So there's a couple of different scenarios, but the key is it's very strategic. It's not just capital going in, and I think this it's capital going in where we can really add value, and then where we have some I don't want to say control, but we have some influence, over the direction of how that company goes and how they spend that money, and which is really, especially in an environment right now, where investors need that level of de-risking, to be more willing to deploy, then, this model, I think, works really well for them.
Yeah, I'm just always super curious as business models change, right? So this, it's supply and demand, right? So a year and a half ago, where cash is flowing freely, brands, even service providers, can go out and get cash easily wherever it's at, right? The money's just getting pumped in. But now we're at this weird spot where, you have the people with the money that need a lot more due diligence around it, right? And expecting it, and a lot more data. But then you also have like the brands who need it, and like kind of like this business model that you're rolling out, is just interesting, because I don't know if it wasn't needed 2 years ago, right? But it is absolutely beneficial. But then also for the standpoint, I think from an agency, and I'm kind of speaking, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, which is if I'm in your seat as an agency, one of my always, fears would be churn. Well, now if I'm actually integrated with the company, not only am I invested in it, maybe I have equity in it, maybe it's debt, maybe it's actual equity that's in it. Now I'm even more incentivized. And, oh, by the way, like I'm now tied to them, right? That the churn's not going to be there. So you have highly incentivized, and highly incentivized agency, that wants to perform because they share in all the benefits of the upside. This is super unique. This is out there.
It's really, I mean, that's what kind of started this brainstorm. Is that we wanted to participate. We wanted to the opportunity to tie ourselves in more kind of at the hip with companies and participate in that upside. Because we've never tried to raise capital for our service business. It's tough to bring money in. And I don't know, we've never really felt like that was the right thing, for us to do. And, but as soon as we start having these conversations, it changes the whole conversation from the very beginning, because now it's, you're already immediately aligning as a partner, and kind of like, what's the long-term, plan here, or wish, what do we want to achieve? And then is this something that we can help you get there? And what things need to be true, as far as we can see into the future, what things need to be true for that to happen. And then we make a decision, together based on, hey, do we think we can do this together? So it's a completely different environment and conversation than me trying to, sell somebody on a service and, hey, we can do this and we can do this. We can save you money versus doing this in-house, and we can do this better than the next guy. Like, it's a whole different relationship.
It goes from that sales pitch to like the partnership pitch.
Yeah.
Right. It's got to completely shift how you're interacting with brands. Oh, wow. No, super. I think it's awesome. I think it's beneficial for brands. I think it's an interesting business model that, I don't know if it could have existed a year and a half, 2 years ago, but I think for the foreseeable future, it's great. Yeah. Right.
It's a really good point, because it's the, when money's easy to come by, and again, back to if I'm a founder that kind of likes my autonomy and, doesn't want to be sort of take too much advice or what have you, I'd rather just have dumb money, that's gonna come in, let me do what I need to do with the money. So the environment where it is today, like, kind of points to, well, this model where it's a win for the investors, it's a win for us, it's a win for the brands, we all move further in a lower risk scenario, in a more calculated, it might be a little more conservative. Maybe we don't get the multiple that we got in the heyday, but we can actually forecast something. We can actually plan on, what we want to build and what we need to do to get there, and how much money it's going to take, to get there, how we're going to spend that money. And so it's really kind of I guess I shouldn't say a better scenario for everyone, because if you just get, tons of money in an acquisition, then that's great for you. But if you're taking capital that comes easy, and you're running an enterprise, but you don't have, that capital is they're either messing up your business. Private equity, venture capital is famous for doing this, for really putting the screws to you and just and making it tough for you to navigate and do things, but not really getting in and helping necessarily, make things better. But if you just have that money, you don't have the additional resources, the additional network, the additional expertise to really help you, grow and scale your business, then, most of those deals fail. Most of those deals don't ever harvest, what they're looking to harvest. And that's the private equity model. So that's a piece that we're seeking to, fix, is like, hey, let's only invest in deals that we really feel we can add value to, and we really feel we can grow. And so then therefore the success rate is, 75% as opposed to 10%, so yeah, it's a, hopefully, like, the model will stick, and with the right people, the right brand, will still want to participate in something like that. But you never know. The money starts freewheeling all over the place again, and it's a flashy, shiny thing that you can grab quickly. And so, but again, we're vetting. It's the partners you want to work with. So this is what I would say is it comes to any brand that's like, looking for capital and seeing things tighten up and gosh, where do I go? It's like, look for those strategic partners, those investment banks or LPs or whoever, private equity groups that are like really into that category. They have relationships, that can bring value. They really can bring, add value to your team and help go, and that there's going to be a regular and, healthy working relationship between, and those kind of, if you approach it that way and find those people, and it's obviously it takes more effort, to find those people and sift through, and in the climate today, even the additional effort probably because it's tighter, but you're setting yourself up better for success that way anyways.
Do you think that there's going to be like what you're doing is just going to be replicated? Because I can see a need for, hundreds of what you're doing, because you can only take on so much work. And like you were saying, there's specific categories that you want to focus on. And there's 1,000 different categories that are out there that are people are trying to do some really cool new startup things, get going. And they're at a point where they need capital. They need a partner. And that's one thing that everybody's looking for in that, right? I mean, if it's just dumb money coming in, like you're saying, it's one thing, but now where everybody's getting more strategic and they're going to hold people's feet to the fire based on the performance. You can't just go take it from anybody who, if they're going to pour in with cash, they're going to give you 3 to 6 months. And if they're not seeing something or the turn, they're going to jump in. And even if they don't know your category, like you're saying, they're going to jump in and they're going to start calling some shots that may or may not align with your vision for the company, as opposed to vetting out a partner who's actually like, they also have a service that can align with your business, your product, and help drive the success, where you do it as one big happy family, as opposed to just taking money in and then, wondering what's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. I think people, there will be, more to do. And it's not, I mean, look, I think it's kind of, disruptive, or really it's just an evolution in kind of how things have been going, because I know funds here in Utah that are, very successful. And one of the reasons is that they're a little more conservative. They're more selective. They kind of focus in areas where they know. It's like individual investors. I have a buddy that I remember several years ago. I came to him with another buddy's deal. There was a cool software, play, and I said to him, and he was just like, "Oh no, I know my lane. I kind of stick in it." And he joked that, it made me laugh because he's like, I only invest in. My thesis is I pretty much invest in businesses that don't make money but are a lot of fun. So we own like a heli skiing company and a touring company that took people up Everest and all this cool stuff, But he, didn't go into it. I did, and I lost money, because I was just like, hey, I like this guy. This seems cool and innovative what they're doing. Like, I'll put some money in here, and it didn't work out. And so it's just like that with it, so my point is, there are groups out there, there are private equity funds, there are people that are doing that, like being a lot more selective. I think the next level that we're trying to take it to is like, hey, we have operations that are critical, that are highly important functions of this business and its path to success. And so we can really help with that. We have some expertise and value that we can bring. And then we have this network, in the health and wellness space and healthcare space. We've got this vast network, of some key influential people. So again, we can bring value to those deals. So you just build that. So I do see that is kind of, maybe the next evolution, and call it kind of a micro private equity sort of model or something, where it's very focused and dedicated and value add. as opposed to kind of spreading really wide and just, knowing that you're likely to get one or two unicorns in there in the group. So yeah, I do see it happening to some extent. And I feel like this is kind of a natural evolution. And we have like literally very naturally just kind of found our way, sort of into this category and into these relationships. Like you work with certain types of companies and you keep getting attracted to or are attracted to you certain types, so you kind of end up in sort of a niche in a category that you're really good at. And then because of those people you're talking to and the relationships you have, that network expands. And so it's, the riches is in the niches, right? If you just focus and can build enough like human capital, and kind of relationship equity in those spaces and expertise equity in those spaces, then you can have a dramatic impact on the right companies.
So do you see then, if we think about the performance side, then we'll say a brand comes in, you partner with them, like what, I'm thinking for other brands, it might not need the cash, but you come in. So now you're equity owner in a brand, right? Which puts you in a unique spot where you have a digital marketing agency full stack, but you also have a brand. So now you've got this really unique view of here's exactly what I'm going to do, right? That's got to be like, I'm thinking that's part of the pitch. Like, hey, by the way, I know this space really, really well. Here's 10 brands that I blew up, but by the way, I got nothing out the back end, right? When they sold and they moved on, I didn't. So I know all the buttons to push. So you bring a brand in, is that Amazon first? Is that direct to consumer first? Is that retail first? Like, how are you balancing where that media spend goes? Because I think there's two things. There's like the brands that just want to know about it, and there's the brands that are executing a strategy right where they may not need the money, but they want to know, what if, if I could pick somebody's brain who owned a brand and owned an agency, what would they do?
Yeah. Oh, I'll give you an example, kind of live example that we're actually launching with in about a month. That's getting funding, from our accelerator, and so we built out a 2-year kind of prospectus for them on the digital marketing side. And I'll be honest with you, it's not rocket science to begin with, because we split 30% between Amazon, 30% between Google, 30% between Meta, and about 10% on TikTok. And then we figure out what, and within those multiple audiences and creatives and all the deal, but it's all data driven from that point on. We watch really very closely from a high level, total media efficiency ratio and what's driving the most, the most sales, the most return visits, the most loyalty, all of that, and just kind of sort of just refine and optimize that mix as you go, because it never stays the same either. Right. It's like it's this, we find what works for this month or this 6 months, and then 12 months from now, it's going to be different. So it's just an ongoing thing. But what to me, like one of the coolest things about how we approached that when we built that out was we said, we know we have capital coming. We know we have this runway. Here's where we want to get, ultimately the investors want, we need to pay them at least a 4 or 5x return on their money in 24 months. So what's the value? How much revenue do we need to drive? Then we can work back and see our runway with capital, and we can say we're gonna start, and this is a consumable product, which is crucial in this kind of with this kind of plan, But we say, hey, we're gonna start with a 1 ROAS. We just want $1 for every dollar we spend the first few months. And then we want a 1.25. And then we want, because we want to acquire customers. And then we want to measure our data. We want to, measure lifetime value. We want to build that. We want to build the AOV, all of those things. But we know we have capital. We know we have a certain thing to hit. It's versus, and we're able to to map it out, and how we get there. Versus typically when you work with a client, in many cases, I'll say in most cases, they're kind of like, I need to hit this ROAS. I need a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, whatever. They're looking at profitability metrics, and that's oftentimes at odds with growth, and with hitting a certain target that you want to, hey, we want to be acquired, or we want to raise a series A, B, C, we want to really, really fund this growth. We need to hit a certain amount of velocity, in order to do those things. And so, it just, it allows you to look at and build it from a totally different angle and build a completely different roadmap. So I don't know, that's been one of the, kind of eye-opening fun things for me, because it's, sometimes you think, well, customers even will say, like, we'll spend, and we try to serve clients, work with things as if it's our own business. What would we do? What would we do if we tell that to our team all the time? But a lot of times people will think, well, if it was your own business, you wouldn't spend so much, or you would be tighter, you'd be focused more on the profit. This is a situation where we are, more vested in the business. We are more like, hey, here, what, in hitting this specific goal of getting acquired, or getting an additional investment. And so, we're just able to really look at it objectively.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times with those, I love what you're saying, which is, begin with the end in mind, right? The old 7 habits of effective people, right? The Stephen Covey stuff. So, but, when you think about these founders that are out there, they're so concerned with return on spend, because, I mean, that's what's literally paying their mortgage, right? It's paying their car, it's paying for their food. They're looking at how much they're going to take home at the end of the year. And so that directly conflicts, especially when you're a startup, right? And you're scrapping by, conflicts with, I shouldn't say it always does, but a lot of times that can conflict with the 4-year plan of selling the business.
Mm-hmm.
We focused on the here and now, kind of like what you're saying is that then you spend differently than, hey, 4 years from now, I want to sell. And if I took the average of the sell price, and how much I made on that and divided it by 4 and took that as my, annual take home, how does that compare to actually what I'm taking home? And
right.
A lot of times it's a 2 or 3, 4 multiple, but I mean, people are dealing with the here and now right now, right? That's
100%. Right? Look, Aaron, that's really, I would, that's probably the biggest reason that we want to do this, started to, I mean, yeah, we want to participate in the upside and be more and make more money, like we all do. But there's this driving force behind it. Like, we want to see more companies succeed. We want to see more entrepreneurs get there, realize their dreams and have success. And that's always the case. Like the biggest, some of the biggest factors in why, companies don't succeed, and great products, great ideas, great technologies that don't get there. They're undercapitalized. They don't have the relationships, they're missing those things. So if we can bring those things to, and like you said, we can't do 100 companies a year, maybe, in this model. I don't know, Hangar 75, I think is going to challenge that and try to really scale, pretty big. But then we can really help kind of fill some of those gaps and help those companies, get there. So, one of the things of an accelerator, and this is a key thing for a brand, if they're a good fit, it's like they got to be coachable, and willing to work and learn along. And because that's what an advisor is, a good advisor is going to do, is like really help you try to kind of see what you need to do, to secure the capital that you need, to secure the retail relationships, or to gain the customer, whatever that is, the metric, to hit the metrics you need to along the way to get to that goal. They're going to help you along that path. And so that's a crucial piece, I think, that's missing for a lot of entrepreneurs. that are trying to kind of get there. And you're in I mean, we've all been you're in the weeds, you're in the day to day, you're worried about making payroll, you're worried about, after that, I'm going to be able to pay myself. It's a grind, and
that idea that I might have to spend more and not get paid this month, right? It is a real fear that's out there.
100%. Yeah.
Right. And so what do I do and how do I balance that? But if they can find somebody to help de-risk that, right? And a partner who actually wants to pour in, it's awesome. Well, it's awesome what you're doing. Right. Because I'm the same way. All I do, I talk to brands, right? Just all day, every day. That's what I do, and help them out. Right. And just from an advisory thing, I want to see them succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of times that is, hey, I can't spend more. I literally can't spend more, but I wish I could. And no, it's super, super exciting. If you can de-riskify and still have somebody that comes along that really knows what they're doing, it's different than that PE firm that just gives money and then it's not helpful at all.
Right.
Not to say that all PE firms are like that. I don't want to pretend that at all, because a lot of them, like you were saying, if they're in the niche and it's in the wheelhouse, they know exactly what to do. Yeah. Right. And, I think, some advice out there is when you're going to look for funding, if you need it, like, don't just go for the cash, go for the partnership. Understand you're vetting them as much as they're vetting you around what that partnership is for the long-term success. Because it's just seen that's stub their toes.
So true and so important. And I think we lose sight of that. It's like just like dating. Where when you really need something, you want something. It's hard not to get into sort of that desperate frame of mind, and come across that way. And that's so unattractive. To be able to same thing for investors. So it's kind of if you take back a lot of control, gain a lot of leverage, when you're vetting people as much as they're vetting you.
Man.
And ultimately you're just making better decisions. You're doing that's the diligence that you need to do to make sure like this is the right partner for me. And so the other thing is, if we are kind of desperate, if we feel like I need this money now, like I really need something, then we're going to make hasty decisions maybe, and we just need to be able to be patient and take the time to make sure it's the right thing. I talked to a young founder, bright young founder yesterday, and so it was great because there was just, little bits of advice coming right out of the gate, because she's got a product that she's kind of taking to market. She's started in a retail shop, like a coffee shop kind of thing. But then she's got, hey, I got something good here and people love it. And I have these influencers that I'm connecting with, they love it and they want to do something with me. They want to share something. I need to create this into an e-commerce product. She's got a food scientist coming in to help make it shelf stable, so that she can, but that's going to be a few months down, so I'm talking to her and she's like, I really need money, if I just had the money, I could blow this up. It's like, okay, well, where are you? How far are you out from this? And, like you're super, super early. But the great thing is like, she's fired up and she's, going after, she's building relationships with these high end, influencers and working to get her product shelf stable, doing things that like, a really young entrepreneur, you might not expect, pretty smart things. But then the key thing for me was like, she's asking questions. Okay, well, what do I need to do? Like, how many sales do I need to be doing, before somebody is, willing to look, it's kind of like not just, staying on the give me money thing. And this is, if I just had money, I could do all these things. So even with that, where this person might be really young and not have a ton of experience, but I see that they're, really hungry and they're willing to do the work and they're asking the right questions, like that changes things a lot. You can overcome a lot, you can learn and advise on a lot, you can put help in place to help, but there's just a certain mentality that's really attractive in terms of, what they're willing to do.
Yeah.
To make it work.
I've been picking your brain for the past 45 minutes or so Like anything you have to ask?
Yeah, I'm always curious, like, what you're seeing out there in terms of how kind of the situation of capital right now is kind of impacting these different, brands. I mean, I hear the things and read a little bit about, what's going on with kind of aggregators not slowing down, but you got a lot more insight. Just really curious on.
Yeah. I think, it was really easy over the pandemic to sell online. And the people that are going to make it, right? And now it's really hard to launch because at the end of the day, you need to get into retail, right? That's the reality. Not for everything, but I would say 95% of the time,
Yeah.
that's the case. You need to somehow have a retail presence, and it's a lot harder now. And like you're saying, everybody's more skeptical on what they're bringing in, right? If you think even on the retail side, the buyers, right?
Yeah.
They're completely relying, shouldn't say completely, but you know what I mean? Like there's a huge reliance on the online presence, the ratings, the reviews, how many platforms, the pricing that's there, the distribution strategy, while they're looking at it to say, yes, I want to buy this and put it on my store, on my shelf. And that makes their job a lot easier, right? It de-riskifies their job because, if they get questioned, hey, why'd you pick this product? It didn't move at all. It's a dud on the shelf. How'd you select it? And you say, oh, well, it's got 5,000 4.5-star reviews. It's been in the market for 3 years and it's, sold on 5 different marketplaces and a direct to consumer site. Oh, okay. Then it makes sense. It kind of de-riskifies the buyer side. So there's a lot fewer brands right now. There's a lot of brands trying to be launched, but there's a lot fewer brands that are going to make it. And that's why I was really interested in this conversation, which was they need to find a partner. They need to find somebody else that can get them to the next level because like this lady that you're talking about, she's a founder. She's passionate, right? She loves her product. But she's the front. She's the face of the company. She can't do the operational back end. She can't do the sales and marketing. She just literally can't. Not only does she not have the time, but probably not the expertise, or she only has one of the pieces of the expertise. Can't do the back end, website build. She needs all these other things. And kind of like her thought is like, I need money. Well, she needs to get to a certain point before most people will even look at her to give her money outside of friends and family. Oh, by the way, a lot of friends and family have lost a lot of money with all the investments they did over the past 2 years. So that being said, I see the total number of tech startups going down that make it or going down, the ones that have launched, because the money just isn't there. That a lot of people on the service provider side, all the tech and everything is popping up. They're getting a lot more specific. They're looking a lot more at key metrics. They're not gambling as much as they used to. And then the same thing on the brands. The money that's funneling into brands is, people want to be safer with that. They're a lot more diligent with the cash.
Yeah.
And so, that's it. I mean, it's harder than it's ever been. And
yeah, true. And I think,
I want to correct that. I don't know if it's necessarily as hard as it's ever been. We've been skewed for the past 3 years with the ease of money. It's as hard as it's ever been. Yeah, it's not harder. It's as hard as it's ever been, except for we had this weird blip.
Which is you're like, wow, we have a short memory. For sure, Yeah. And so we're kind of like, this is the world we live in, but it's skewed. One of the kind of to your point about, the founder not being ready or having all the pieces they need, I think, and like money will fix some of these problems, but I think you got to have a really good plan, and no plan in the future is going to be perfect, right? Nobody can predict the future exactly, but if you don't have a good plan, a reasonable plan of how you're going to spend that money and how you're going to measure if that money's, if it's doing what it's supposed to, and how you might pivot, if you haven't thought that stuff through, then it's like, don't ask me for money. Right. I need some kind of like plan what you're going to do. Like money doesn't just fix everything. So I think that's a real important point. And yeah, I mean, that's where we are. And a question, like, do you see, like, are there any categories that you see like doing better, or having, use all these products launching out? Like, what's making the difference in your eyes, and the ones that like do make it?
Number one, the willingness to partner. Right. You have to find somebody to help you out. I think you kind of hit on it, that willingness to learn and be open to criticism. I think, what's really unique is when you're open to really understanding what your target market is, because we have these ideas, and always, laugh when you have, a lot of times in like the fashion space. Well, my target is the 20 to 24-year-old female. And they came up with this idea when they were, 24 to 28. And now it's grown, and now they're 35 and they're designing as a 35-year-old, thinking that they're still 20 to 24. And when they roll out all the demographics, that's their lowest performing demographic is 20 to 24. It's actually the 35 to 40. And they want to say, no, that's not true, right? It's listening to the data and knowing who your target market is. You have then the companies that then double down on, hey, I'm going to market to 20 to 24-year-olds, or I'm going to market to actually what seems to be working. And they go tenfold, right, in 3 years. So it's listening to the data, right? This gets back to me as a scientist, right? It is not just throwing stuff up at a wall and seeing what sticks. It's picking the wall, picking what you're throwing up against the wall, right? And then actually analyzing what sticks and what doesn't, and not having your personal bias, your me search come in and say, well, this is why I think it happened, but just listening to the data. Like, you have to listen to the data at this point in time. There's tons of it that's out there. And, people are giving real-time feedback on you and your brand. If you're open to listening to it, I think that's a major thing that people need to be cognizant of. And then I just did a podcast with Tim Armstrong. So former CEO of AOL, former head of Google Ads America, and he was talking about brands as the platform. Like, brands have given tons of data to all these other platforms. I think it's the podcast episode right before this one. Tons of people have just given data to Google, to Meta, to Amazon, to Walmart, and they're not asking for it back, and they're not owning it. They're thinking in the digital space that there's these platforms that manage the brand, and brands need to get that data back. Brands need to own that. And you've seen some cool partnerships on the Super Bowl ads. But I mean, kind of what you were saying earlier too, is you have to be open to adapting. Like, your plan for the future, you need a plan, but you have to be open to adjusting that plan. And adjusting that plan doesn't mean you were wrong. You do the best you can with the information you have at the time.
Yeah.
And if you never change the plan, right? There's two things that happen. You never change a plan. You never have to. Like, go buy a lottery ticket. You see the future, right? You got it. Right. You're going to crush it. The other, 8 billion people on the planet, adjust your plan over time. Even what you're doing with the business is awesome.
Yeah. Right.
All of a sudden I see this need, and I have brands that have a need, and, we have a service, but we also have this ability to help brands. And you and I have a passion for helping people. I think that's kind of how we've hit it off from the beginning, is how do I help people to be better, and we can be better at the same time. What are you most excited about as we kind of get to kind of my final question I like to ask? What are you most excited about?
I'm excited about a lot of things, both with respect to work, and what I'm excited about, incredible snow season we're finally having here in Utah. I'll tell you that. But, I'm just most excited about this opportunity to really partner with people. I like you said, I love to help people. I'm also, an entrepreneur, or at least a small business guy that like wants to do his own thing, but also have an impact and be successful. So So working with other, when you hang out with like-minded people and you have that same energy, like life couldn't be better, right? That's what really, it brings the best out of us. And so I'm excited to experience that and be working more closely with bright, hungry, founders, learning from them and being able to share that with them, help teach them or help share that same energy with them. Like that's what
Awesome.
That's what excites me. I think that's what keeps me coming back,
Yeah. No, I love it.
What I like about space. So what about you? What excites you, Aaron?
I like change. I like figuring things out. What I loved about chemistry was figuring out, the challenge of figuring something out that nobody ever figured out before. In that chemical compound. What I hated about it was there's no people to talk to. And I love people. And so what excites me is just chatting with people every day and helping them figure out this ever changing. Nobody figures out e-commerce. Nobody figures out digital commerce. It's changing so fast. There's so many new players. Strategies 3 months from now may be completely different, right? Everything that's happening with Meta, everything that happens with TikTok, all this, chat, GPT and, all these AI learning tools. It's so cool. You never quite figure it out, but you can keep reiterating and trying to stay on top of it. And, I just feel blessed I get to interact with people and help them do it every day. So my job, I guess, I don't know, right? We're getting back into, kind of the, trade show season. So we'll be out at Detail, we'll be out at Shop Talk. We're at NRF earlier. It's kind of that time of year where people want to get out and network and hang out. And so we'll do a bunch of dinners at those events and the other ones throughout the year. So whatever RICE is, if it's not IRCE anymore. I actually found this thing the other day as I'm moving, I told you. The 2017 IRCE, where Chris Perry, I met him for the first time, and Eric Keller. We spoke on a stage with Mark Vandegrift from Channel Advisor when he was there. It was I'd met Melissa Burdick and Andrea Lay for the first time there. It was a great. I saw that and I just pulled it, and so I'm just I don't know. I'm geeked
That's
about.
Cool.
What's
they're the best, man. I love them, and I should do more of them. I got a couple of things going on this year, but I mean, I met you at an event. Yeah. I also met Melissa at an event, a small event, in Seattle, many years ago. Like it's the coolest thing. Like just, connecting with people live, had we been introduced via an email somewhere, it would have been different,
right.
It would have been different, like connection that you and I have. And certainly would have taken longer, a lot longer at the very least,
there's something about breaking bread with people. And that's, we did close to 100 dinners last year. I think we're only going to do 85 this year. I'm just going to wind them down a little bit. 100 was a little bit, just, I think
a lot
too many. The brands want, I'm just, we could easily do 120.
Yeah.
But really true, meaningful events. Those are on the dinner side. We're still going to do probably 6 full day in-person events in New York City. Those are always fun. But other than that, it's going to be, at these, the big e-com shows that, I think we'll be at the Prosper show. It's fun. It's a great spot to be in. And yeah, it's awesome.
Well, it's always changing for sure. And that's what drew me to it in the first place. I was in printing and packaging for 20 years. And I was just like, I gotta do something that's new, a little more exciting. And this is definitely exciting. There's no dull moment in this space.
Yeah. It's funny. My first thing, I was at Perigo. I had this crazy project to launch a direct to consumer site. And then it just kept turning into something else and something else. And it was Amazon. And then it was a little bit of the Amazon EU and, just helping out with, we bought a company over there. It was going to China and figuring out Tmall Global and how we could work with them. And then taking a trip to Mexico. We had a headquarters down there as well. And then I need to connect with people. And so I kicked off this network to connect with people and just did that crazy entrepreneurial jump. But hey, Michael, it's been awesome. I think I could talk to you for hours and hours, but I really appreciate your time as always.
Yeah.
You know, great
You
friend.
too. Yeah. It helps. It feeds.
And
feeds me. So thank you.
Absolutely. With that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Digital Deep Dive. Thanks everybody for tuning in.